Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're going to be talking about how to make your own spinnerbaits. So as you can see right here, no fishing is going to be done anytime soon up here in Pennsylvania. So I do a lot of my tackle making this time of year and get ready for the upcoming season to make sure I have all the tackle I need. And one of the baits that I like to make is a spinnerbait. I know you guys have been waiting on this video. It's been super anticipated. We're finally going to get into it today. So some of the things we're going to break down: the materials you need, how to pour the bait, how to paint the bait, and then we're going to show you how to put it all together and make it into a spinnerbait. It is absolutely frigid out here. I got to have the door open because I'm pouring with lead, so safety first. But we're going to run through, we're going to show you how to pour and paint one of these really fast before I freeze to death. And then we're going to take it back inside. We'll show you how to put it together. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll find a nice day, like 40-degree day in the winter, when you get one of those sunny, nice, warm days. I just happen to have to do it today, so it's snowing and cold, but you pick a nice day, you come out here, you pour an entire bag of hooks. So you get about 100 hooks in a bag, you pour 100 of these wire forms up and ready to go, and then you can sit inside the rest of winter and tie them up and get your cabin fever out of the way and make sure you have everything you need. So let's run through some of the gear that you need, some of the materials, and talk about how you can get exactly what you want out of a spinnerbait. And then the lead is just about ready to go, so we'll get ready to pouring here. All right, so with a spinnerbait, there's quite a few things you actually need to pour one of these baits. The first thing being one of these wire forms. You can buy them pre-bent, you can buy straight wire, bend them yourselves. I get all my tackle off Barlow's Tackle. I'll link everything down below if you want to check out any of the stuff we're going to be using in today's video. But we got a wire form that we're starting with there. I'm going to be using a 3/0 hook for today, and then this is the spinnerbait mold that I'll be using, and again I'll link this down in the description below, but it goes from 1/4, I believe, no, actually it goes from a 1/8 to a half. I never really use a 1/8 ounce spinnerbait, but I'll use a 1/4, a 3/8, and a half. So we'll pour one of each today so we have a little bit of everything. And then down below here, we'll get into some of these components later when we actually got to put the bait together, but it's like skirt material, blades, beads, all that kind of stuff, and that's where you can really customize your spinnerbait. So this part, pouring it, not really too customizable. You're gonna have to use a certain wire form to fit in there. You might be able to change your wire diameter, but that's about it. And then the hook, you're gonna be pretty limited to the hooks that you can choose, but then you can choose a million blade colors, skirt colors, different stuff like that to make your spinnerbait yours, including your paint color. So this is also what we'll be using today, is just a straight white paint. We're going to show you how to do a very basic spinnerbait today, and then you guys can put your own spin on it and make it how advanced you want. If you want to see more bait making videos and like really how advanced you can get with this, and we do like certain patterned baits like a rainbow trout spinnerbait or a bluegill spinnerbait or stuff like that, let me know down below. But today we're just going to show you the basics of how to actually make one of these, and then you can use those fundamentals to do what you want. So lead's ready to go. Let's get to pouring. We'll bring you in close here so you can see what's actually going on. All right, so now we're ready to pour. You're not going to be seeing me on camera. I'll be using my hands here so you can see what's going on, but most important things, gloves and a mask, which I have on my face here. Very important when you're pouring lead. Still want to have all that stuff going into your lungs for the long term. Make sure you can fish a long time throughout your life. So sound might be a little bit muffled, but we're going to do our best here. When I warm my lead pot up, as you can see, I got it heating up right here. As it's warming up, I put the mold on top of it face down where the lead's going to go in from, and what that heat will radiate up and start to heat up that mold. So that mold has been sitting in this garage where it's 40 degrees, and it's pretty cold. So if you were to put a hook in there, you take one of your hooks that you spent money on, you put it in there, you pour it, and it's too cold, the lead solidifies before it gets all the way down into the cavity, and when it does that, you're going to end up getting an incomplete pour, and then you have a wasted hook or wasted bait or anything like that. So I like to let that heat up nice and warm first, and be ready to actually accept the bait when I put it in there. In the meantime, I'll lay out some of my supplies. So we're going to pour probably 5 spinnerbaits here today. I like to have a few extras just in case. So I'll get a bunch of these wire forms ready to go here. Well, let's do one more. We'll pour 5. I'll do 3 1/2 ounce and 2 3/8 ounce. So then I'll also need 5 of my hooks here. We'll go ahead and pop them on the table so that they're ready to go. And then I can go ahead and move this bag out of the way. And I'm gonna not show you how to do every single one here, but basically this guy, you're gonna take your wire form and your hook, and there's a little loop on it, and I'm just gonna put that hook in the loop right there so that it's all hung together and ready to go. And once I get all these put together and this mold is heated up, we'll get to pour them. All right, now that we got the lead pot ready to go, I have this just to catch some stuff as it's melting, because sometimes the hole will get plugged and then all the lead will fall out. So basically, we're gonna clear this out, make sure that it's ready to go. We got lead coming out the bottom, so we're good there. Got a little bit of a drip, but that's okay. We'll take our pliers here and just kind of adjust this top portion to get that drip to stop, just like that. But now I know I have ready molten lead ready to go, and I got my mold heated up. So I scrape off some of the junk off the top. I'll kind of pull that to the side. You can see a bunch of junk on top of there. I just throw that in an old aluminum can, metal can, and I'll throw that away once it gets full. But that's the stuff you don't want going into your baits or clogging the nozzle of your lead pot. I've done a video on how to pour lead basics. I'll link that one at the end of today's video. If you've never poured lead before, that's the video to start with, where I go over literally everything you need to know. Spinnerbait, a little bit more of an advanced technique to pour. And we'll show you why in just a second here. But we got this guy ready to go, and I'm gonna take my spinnerbait mold, and you're gonna try it. You gotta just line everything up just right inside your cavity here. So there'll be an area for your hook to lay, there'll be an area for your wire to lay, and once you get it all laid in there nice, you're gonna shut this top portion. It's much easier when you're not trying to film it. You can actually do this pretty quick and easy, but I'm going to get this where it needs to go, and I'm going to close this top portion, and when I do, I'm going to squeeze it so hard so that nothing can get through there. Now the difficult part is trying to get the lead into the hole with the wire in the way. What I kind of do is just bend the wire to the side a little bit with the lead pot so that I can get it to go into the hole, but I'll basically just hold it right under there. I'll pour into the lead pot, and I'll stop when it hits the top. You let that cool for just a second, and you got a spinnerbait just like that. So super easy. You can pour one really quick like that. We'll go through and just show you the process on these other ones just quickly so you can see what's going on. That was a 3/8, so we'll actually do 3 3/8, because I'll do 2 more pours with 2 spinnerbait wires in there at the same time. In the meantime, I let that cool down so that it's easy to get that little top off, and we'll show you how to do that in just a second too. But we'll lay our other 2 spinnerbaits in here. We'll do a 3/8. The hardest part is getting everything to lay in there nicely and closed all at the same time, but we'll try our best. That's probably, actually we're gonna have to do one at a time because I don't have enough hands to make this happen. So we'll just go one at a time. I won't pour every one and show you every pour, but we'll go ahead and do that. Bend the wire to the side, pour our lead in there. The biggest thing is making sure you don't have a gap here when you're pouring, because that's what's going to cause your lead to leak through or get a missed pour or something like that. But got another 3/8 ounce spinnerbait just like that. So now we'll pour 3 1/2 ounce ones, and we should be good to go. All right, so now we're gonna show you how to paint one of these spinnerbaits up so that we can go finish one of these off. Couple things here. One, I'm gonna use a heat gun. You can use a propane torch. You can put them in an oven. You can do a bunch of different things. I'm gonna heat mine over this heat gun here. Typically what you do is you heat it up over the heat gun, you dip it into the Protec powder paint, swish it around, pull it out, heat it back up. You can't do that with a spinnerbait because you're gonna put your hook all the way down in there. Technically you could, but to get a good paint job, that's not the way I like to do it. I turn my powder paint upside down, shake it lid down, make sure it's on tight, get it nice and fluffed up, and then I'll flip it over, and then I'll take the lid off, and then it's ready to paint. The only other thing you need is a cheap paintbrush. I buy these at like a hobby store or whatever. What we're gonna do is like scoop some powder paint up, and dust it on top of our spinnerbait. We'll show you how that goes in just a second, but when you dust it on, you'll get a nice even paint job all the way across your spinnerbait. So let's heat this up and we'll show you what we're doing here. Basically, I'm just gonna turn this a few times on this heat gun here. Hopefully you can hear me over the sound of it, but I'm just gonna keep rotating it, make sure it gets nice and hot. You don't wanna overheat it, but basically let it get nice and warm, 15 seconds or so, and make sure you keep it rotating. And then I'm gonna take my powder paint and I'm gonna sprinkle it on the bait here. And it's gonna take quite a bit, so don't worry about putting too much on. I'll go all around the bait, shake off the excess. And this is a tedious way to do it, but if you do it this way, you can also customize your colors. So if I had like a little blue metallic highlight, I could put that on top of this or in a certain area and it would paint just that certain area. You can get creative with it. So we're gonna get that on there, and then when I put it back over the heat, it's gonna remelt some of those areas and let it flow into areas that I missed. And it'll also expose the lead to show where you did miss. So I'll go ahead and let that heat up a little. I can see I missed a little bit on the top and a little bit on the bottom. So that's where we're gonna heat it and paint it the next time. So we're gonna go ahead and get that going. You could try and move the paint just a little bit with a paintbrush, but it's gonna glob up on your bristles there, which isn't what we're looking for. But you can try, if there's like a big glob or something, you can move it around that way. Pull that off those bristles, and we're gonna get this on the bottom. You basically just let it snow over the top of it. Try and get nice even coverage. And then throw it right back on top of the heat. For a really good paint job, I would use an airbrush, and I do have one, but I'm not gonna get out an airbrush and set it all up just to paint one or two baits. So also, if you don't have an airbrush, this is one way that you can do that. But that's it, that's painted, and I'll kind of just hang it on that piece of plastic right there and let that cool down. And that's it. So we got one painted, and we will see you inside and show you how to finish that up and put it all together. All right, so now that we're inside here, we're gonna get to actually tying up one of our spinnerbaits and finishing it off. So as you can see, we have a bunch of components laid out here on the table. We'll go through what each of those are in just a second, but we have our two spinnerbaits right here that we made out in the garage, and we're gonna go ahead and tie them up with a skirt and get everything ready to roll. The way that I usually like to do these is I'll put like a skirt collar and just feed it up on here. This is not the most efficient way, but I'm actually filming a jig video as well, which you'll be seeing here in the near future. And this is the way that I put the jig skirts on, because it is the most efficient way on like a flipping jig, a football jig, stuff like that. And the benefit of doing it this way is you can actually layer your skirt material. So we're gonna show you that in a minute here, but like we have clear crystal. So I got these bags of skirt material. This one is clear crystal, so it's literally clear with black flake and silver flake. We have pearl pepper with blue tint. So this is literally white-ish clear translucent with some blue on it. And then we have solid white. So what we'll probably do, we'll try two different ones. We could do like a white with a blue back, and then I'll probably do like a tritone where I have a blue back with a little bit of clear in the middle and a white belly, like a pure white belly. And the only way to do that is by using a vise like this and hand tying it. If you're just gonna use the skirt tool, you can mix colors like this. So if you did the blue and the white together, you could mix those colors with a skirt tool, but it's not gonna layer them. They're just gonna be kind of mixed all together. But I figured I'd show how to get creative with it, because that is one thing that we were gonna talk about with a spinnerbait, is how to be a little more creative. So we're gonna tie the skirt on first, and then we're going to show you the rest of the components up here, because then we'll actually put those on. I don't want blades and everything like that in my way when I'm tying this up. I want everything clear of this wire so I can actually tie this on how I need to. I basically just start my thread on here as I would with any other jig that I'm making. And once I get that on there a few times, I'll go ahead and just snip this guy off. And then we got to get some of our skirt material. So let me cut these open and we'll be right back here once I get these out of the package. All right, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna show you how to do the layering, and then I'll tie the second one up and I'll just show you both of them on screen here. But we're only gonna show you how to tie one, so I'm not taking up too much time. A typical strand of skirt material, there's 10 in a pack. They come with 22 strands of skirt on there. And then that 22, when you fold it in half, doubles when you actually fold the bait backwards. So typical jig skirt that you're going to find out there is probably 2 of these tabs, maybe 2.5 at most. Occasionally you'll find 3, but the more bulk you add, the more lift your bait is going to have. So what we're going to do, I'm going to be using the white for the belly, and then we're going to take the crystal that we want to lay in there, and at the end of these there's areas that you can actually just kind of break these apart. So I'll take that skirt tab in half and I'll go ahead and just rip it at the top, and then I'll come down to the bottom here and I'll rip it at the bottom. It's just going to give it a nice little glittery touch in the middle, and be that layer for that. And then the last one is we're going to do a full tab again of the blue, so it gives it that blue hue on top, and when they all blend together they're going to look really nice. So I'm going to lay all 3 of these out on my table, how I'm going to create this, and then the first thing we're going to do is basically find the midway point of our skirt material, and I'm going to hold it up against the belly of the bait first. And I would rather have, if you're gonna cheat it to one side or the other, I'd rather have it longer in the front, so when it folds back I can trim it up. So I'm gonna kind of ball this up in my hand and kind of lay it along the belly here. Make sure I have just enough up front that I need. And I'm trying my best to show you this without getting my elbow in the way, but we're gonna go ahead and go over the bait a couple times, just to, like 2 times, just to get it held into place. And then we're gonna kind of maneuver it wherever we want it on the actual spinnerbait there, and then I'm gonna cinch it and give it a couple more wraps, and I'll try to get it as close up to the head as I can with the wraps so that it looks like a full spinnerbait skirt when it's done. So let's go ahead, we'll wrap up to the head there, and we got that strand nice and locked in. So then we'll take our crystal, which we're gonna put in the middle, and I'll lay it over the top here, split the hook a little bit so that it kind of splits the bait like we want it to, have the longer side up in the front again, make sure everything is good here, and then same thing, I'll take like 2 wraps around the bait just to lock it into place. I'll distribute those crystal strands where I want them, kind of shuffle them around the bait a little bit, so a lot of them are falling on that side, so I'll kind of pull them into place, and then we will lock it up on the bait again and wrap up to the front of the bait. Again, this is not the most efficient way to do this. This is actually really difficult with this big wire sticking out at the top. But if you want a layered bait, this is the only way to do it. So if you want to get really creative and create different effects of baits, this is the way to do it. We're going to take our blue, we're going to lay that right on top and kind of bunch it up. And then we're going to go ahead and lay that into position, just like we did the other ones. Secure it with 2 wraps, make sure that's everywhere we want it to be. And then we're just going to lock it up again. And this is where you're going to put a lot of wraps down in one spot. You're basically going to create that jig skirt collar right here. So I'm going to wrap quite a few times right in that one spot, right behind the spinnerbait head. I'm just going to keep going and tightening within each wrap without breaking the thread, and kind of build that collar. So now we have that collar built up there. And then to lock your thread off when you're done, you get this all wrapped up nice. I'm going to pull a big layer out here, and I'm basically going to do what's called a half hitch knot. I'm going to put my finger right at the bottom here. I'm going to fold my finger around and the bobbin over, and then I'm going to basically bring this all around the bait, almost like you're tying a Palomar knot. This is where it's going to get messy because you got to get all that silicone skirt material through there. the best you can. And you get it down on the skirt there, and then you can go ahead and lock that up. You can do a couple of them if you want to get it really secure. The best way is once you get it locked up like that, you make sure your thread's where you want it to be. I got a little loose thread on the back end here. The nice part is you can be a perfectionist about this, or you can tie them however you need just to get baits out on the water, or you can use this skirt making tool, and that works too. But that's how I tie one of these guys up, just like that. So the best thing now, like you can see I can lay this loose and it won't unravel. I'll cut just a little tag to make sure it stays put, but take some super glue or some like adhesive and you can put it on there to keep that skirt into place. And then you should be good to go. So then all we're gonna do now is basically take our scissors, and actually I'll leave it in the vise for this so you can see what I'm doing here. I'll just take where the tab ends and I'll just trim it up. And I'll trim off all the little ends of the tabs that hold the silicone skirt material together. And if you pull it tight when you do it, so like I pull it tight like this, I give it a little trim, and you can see all those kind of like flutter into place. That's your best chance of not getting any of them sticking together or anything along the lines of that. So same thing with the front. You'll have 6 total little tabs to cut because we put 6 strands of skirt material in there, or 3 strands of skirt material that turns into 6 on either side. But once we get those all trimmed up like that, now we have a spinnerbait that is a clear crystal back, has a little blue glimmer on the top, and it has a white belly. So now we have a skirt on here. Now all that's left is to put on the rest of the pieces, and we're done. All right, so after you get your spinnerbait all skirted up like that and you're ready to finalize this bait and put it all together, there's a couple components that you need, and that will be the finishing effects on your spinnerbait and basically turn it into a spinnerbait. So what we got here, we got blades. This is your most creative place that you can get, is with your blades right here. I'm keeping it pretty basic. I fish a lot of bait fish places, and I fish for places that eat a lot of shad. So that's 2 willow leaves right there is what we're gonna do today. You can do a Colorado's, you can do willow leaves, you can do a combo of the 2. But those 2 blades right there gives me a nice appearance, makes it look like a shad, and really gets me what I'm looking for. So we have 2 of those. I believe these are a size 4.5, somewhere in there. They're between a 4 and a 5. And then another piece that you're gonna need, this is called a clevis. You'll need one of these to actually put one of the blades on your spinnerbait. So we have a little clevis right here. So we'll lay that part out. The other blade will be attached by this guy right here, which is called a roller swivel, a bearing swivel. These are ball bearing swivels is the ones that I got, and they have split rings on either end, and there's a fatter section and a skinny section. So the fat section is going to go up against your bait, skinny section will go off the back, and it'll have your blade attached to it, and the split rings are there to attach to your bait. And then the other couple things you're going to need are a bead or a couple beads like we have right here. So I don't know how many we're going to need. We'll kind of feel that out, but we'll throw a couple down on the table here. And then these are some spacers. So you can space your blades apart, or you can put them right next to each other to create noise, or if you want them like more spread apart to create a bigger appearance of shad, you can do that as well. I think we're going to use 2 spacers on this guy. So here's how this is going to go together. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take a single bead and I'm going to feed it right onto the wire shaft here. Just like that. So that's your first bead. That's going to get you started for what you need, and basically get you where you have a front of your spinnerbait. So then on the addition of the bead, I'm going to take my clevis and I'm going to put my spinnerbait blade on here, and you want it so that when the clevis is the first hole, the bevel of the spinnerbait blade should go towards the first hole so that it'll spin properly on your bait. So then we're going to take our clevis and we're going to go ahead and put him on there. So now you can see it has a blade starting to look like a spinnerbait. Now we're going to take our 2 spacers, if I can get them off the table here. Actually, before we take our spacer, what I am going to do is I'm going to throw another bead on there. Basically, the beads you almost use as washers to create your blades to spin a little bit easier. So I'm going to take another bead and I'm going to put him on there before I put my spacers on there. So now I have a bead, a clevis with my blade, another bead, and then I'm going to take my 2 spacers that I have in my hand here that are giving me a lot of difficulty, and I'm going to go put both of those on here. They're just like little metal tubes that will keep your blades spaced apart. And then we're going to throw one more bead on there just to kind of finish that look off. You can really customize this however you want. You could do 1,000,000 beads instead of spacers. You could do no beads. You could do no spacers. Anything you want to do there. Be creative as you want, but that's what we got going on there. So the last thing we need to do is put our swivel on there with our blade. So the best way to do this is I'm going to find that skinnier end, which is this side here, and I'm going to take my blade and get it on this split ring here. So I'm not going to show this. This is going to take me 1,000,000 years to get this on here. Actually, maybe not. Might have got it first try. Look at that. Basically, you just get your blade on here. Hang on. Please hold. We're going to get this on here real fast. All right. So we got our spinnerbait blade on the end here, and we basically have a spinnerbait now on the end. So we're going to take this and put it on the wire, and then we're going to try and line up where we want our blade to end. I actually think I'm just going to bend the wire right at the end here. I think that's where I want it to be the most. So the biggest thing is making sure that the other way is you can attach this split ring after the fact once you bend the wire. I'm going to bend the wire with the blade already on here. So basically these are round nose pliers. You have to use round nose pliers to get the bend correctly. I'm going to take it like right below where I want the bend to end, and I'm just going to fold this around, and it might take a little bit of work, like that right there. The other thing you can do is kind of have that lay off to the side, and I'll take my round nose pliers and bend the wire first to get the loop, or at least as close to a loop as possible. It takes a little bit of work to get that loop going. And you can use the front of the pliers to kind of create that loop as you need to and size it down. It just takes a little bit of working the wire around to get it to where you want it to be. And then you can finish the loop by squeezing it together with the pliers and get that loop as tight as possible, which is a big thing. You want that loop as tight as you can get it, because that will keep your blade on there. Like I said, this just takes a little bit of finicking around with it and getting it where you want it. This is where you can be a perfectionist and make sure you have all your tackle perfectly ready to go. Now I got a loop on there, and right before I really cinch that down with my round nose pliers, I'll take my blade and I will just go ahead and pop it onto this loop here, which I might not have left myself enough gap, so I'm going to open this up just a touch. And I'll pop my blade on here. Now that I got my blade on there, I'll go ahead and grab this loop and really crank this thing and finish it off so that it's all done. And then make sure you don't have any tag. You want the tag to be in line with the rest of the bait. so that there's nothing to catch on there. And just like that, you got a spinnerbait. I know it takes a little bit of work, but you can see, I mean, I got a shad profiled spinnerbait, lighter back, dark solid belly, couple willow leaf blades. It's as easy as that. It looks like it takes a lot of work, but this is a great wintertime project. You have nothing else going on. You can't get out and fish. And truthfully, you can save some money over time by building them yourself like this. These components don't really cost a lot. Like you can get these bags of beads and clevises and spacers for $4 or $5 a piece, and they make 100 baits. So by the time you add up some of these costs on these baits, you're going to save money in the end if you build enough spinnerbaits and you like to fish spinnerbaits a lot. So that's what we made today. Hopefully in the springtime we'll be able to get out there and actually fish it and see if it catches some fish. If you'd like to see a video of maybe where I make a spinnerbait that's a certain kind and then actually go out and fish with it and see if it catches fish, leave that in the comments down below. If you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button and check this video out right here if you want to see me talking about why the spinnerbait is such an effective tool for bass and how to catch more fish using it. So hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.